Hi Terry, can you tell me your full name and what you do at SAS?
I'm Terry Barham. I'm the program manager for SAS certification.
Right, and when you say certification, it used to be that there are different versions of SAS. What is the current level of certification that you administer?
Well, most things are on the SAS 9 right now. The base and advanced program are for SAS 9. All the others around SAS 9 except for predictive modeling, which is that is Enterprise Minor 5 or 6. But all the others are around SAS 9.
Well, within the certification tests, is it all completely multiple choice, or do you ever have the test taker run SAS or open up any of the modules?
Well, for most of the exams, they are straight multiple choice. In fact, all of them are multiple choice, but they are application level questions where you have to interpret code or things of that nature. Very few knowledge-based questions, most of them application questions. Predictive modeling is a bit different. It's still multiple choice, but in order to identify the correct answers, the student has to go in and actually manipulate Enterprise Minor software while they're doing it. So they run Enterprise Minor on different data sets, things of that nature, set different values in order to identify the correct answer.
So are they actually running the SAS software at that point?
They are.
Wow.
They are.
Because I remember taking a test where I go into some test location near where I live, and it's a generic PC, and I do this test. How do you do it now where you actually have the SAS software?
Well, that's predictive modeling. You can only do it through a SAS location.
Okay, so you have to go to SAS Institute or something like that.
To a SAS training facility or something of that nature, or several universities are doing it now too.
Okay. I work more so in the biotech pharmaceutical industry. Do you have any exams, certification in that area?
We've got one under development now, which we're very excited about. Clinical trials programmer using SAS. So we're just in the early development stages. We're using a lot of CROs and pharmas, consultants, academic research organizations helping it with that. We're in the preliminary design phase right now. We expect somewhere in the first half of 2011 to come out with that credential.
When you say you use the CROs and the companies, how do you use them? Do you have them come and help you come up with the exams, or how is that done?
Well, we have to come with all different phases on that, to establish what are the important job skills for the clinical trials programmer role, and how that's done in their companies. So we'll work with the CROs and the rest of the pharmas like that, how they do it in their companies, then try to come up with a common set of skills that can capture the widest range across the industry from there. So those CROs and pharmas and academics and consultants help us come up with that design. They'll help us come up with the blueprint, and they'll also help us write the questions. So they'll be involved at all stages.
And find the right answers, of course.
Well, of course.
Right.
And those have to be verified in many different ways, to make sure their work not just technically correct, but it's clear what's being asked, and there's only one correct answer.
Okay. Now, I do some of that work, and sometimes it leans towards the technical syntax of SAS that you have to know, but other times you have to interpret clinical data and also know statistics. So what areas does this particular certification cover?
Well, that'll also cover many common SAS programming skills you can't get away from. That'll still be there. You've got to have that foundation. But also there'll be an element of clinical trials methodology knowledge, and awareness level of statistics. One of the key areas that we looked at right there was how much statistical knowledge should a clinical trials programmer have. And talking to the various companies, a little bit of different schools of thought, but primarily you see the clinical trials programmer being the one to execute the procedures that pull a statistic, but they're not necessarily the ones determining which statistic to run against a certain data set. They've got to know which procedure to run to get that data to the biostatistician.
Right. What is the methodology that you use, since when you talk to a CRO versus a company, they would have very varied sets of criteria? Is there a way of organizing that and ranking it and choosing which questions go in?
Oh yes, so once we have the full list of objectives, we'll do a thing called a blueprint survey, which will put this out to a much larger audience, and we'll ask them to weight each one of those objectives to its importance level, and how much of the exam should be devoted to that area of questions. Fairly standard procedure across the industry, a blueprint survey, to come up to help determine where you should put your questions, how many questions on subject X versus subject Y.
I see. And how do you make sure that it becomes effective? Is there a way of testing it, the exams with real students, or how is that done?
We'll do a beta exam. And once we have all the questions, we'll do it to see how the questions perform. And then also during the blueprint survey phase, other companies hiring managers particularly will take a look at that and also pass their judgment whether they think that's important skills for people they hire.
Is that coming out soon, and that is something that you're just starting to develop, or are you finished with that exam?
No, we're just starting to develop. As soon as we have a completed blueprint survey, we'll start publicizing it on a much wider range. We're expecting the first half of 2011 to have that in beta.
Okay, how long is the process normally from the inception of creating an exam certification versus when it's available?
Different, it varies. The clinical trials is going to takes longer than others because we have to have so much outside help. We want to make sure the CROs and pharmas and the academics are involved heavily to pull that. So in this particular case, it probably takes 6 to 8 months.
Okay, that's not bad. But for your internal tests, for foundation SAS, for example, it probably take shorter because you could pull SAS people to...
Yes, because then we can pull internal resources to have all the expertise necessary. We do have customers validate things, but we can depend on them more heavily. But for clinical trials, it requires much more outside assistance for us to do. So therefore, it takes quite a bit longer.
Great. So we should be expecting the clinical exam to come out. What is it going to be called? Do you know?
The working title is SAS Certified Clinical Trials Programmer using SAS.
Okay. And do you think it'll be coming out in the next couple of months? Or?
Well, not a couple of months. Sometime in the first half of 2011. We're tentatively, we're not ready to pronounce the data with the beta just yet. We are expecting first half.
Okay. Great. Was there any in particular interest when you talk to users here at WUSS in terms of what exams that they're most interested in?
Well, as we see just for all our exams, the base program is by far the most popular. About 80% of all the exams we've ever done have been on base programming. I'd say that's reflected here as well. The most interest is in the base program.
Okay. Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay. You're quite welcome.